Hello team, welcome to another video with the Mango Method. Today we're going to spend some time talking about budgets. We've got our trusty core financial model in the background with our Osmozon example. We're not going to spend too much time on that today. Mostly it's just storytelling today. Really want to focus on talking through the concepts and the importance of having a budget, and how having a budget is not just the numbers themselves, but the story behind the numbers, and why that matters for people like bankers. So, I was an ex-banker, and I might share some anecdotes and around that. It's very important to delve into why it's important having a budget and having a budgeting process. They're not. Let's sort of dive into it more, looking back at my background. So I was a banker. I used to do funding for small business, small to medium businesses. And part of the assessment process that we would do is we would check a box, and one of the questions, or a couple of questions in the in those tick boxes, were around whether the client had a budgeting process, whether the client was consistent and was able to report or budget relatively accurately. The last one was how consistent they were with providing reports. All of these actions attribute towards the risk assessment that we would attach to a client. The net result of that is having relatively accurate budgets and being consistent with reporting would result in improved interest rates. Now, different banks work differently, but the one I worked at, all of these factors attributed to improvements in your interest rate. So there's a financial gain or a financial benefit from a funding perspective, just purely having a budget. So that's something of note. The key thing here is a budget is meant to sell or tell a story about the business. And it's really telling the story about what the business is doing in the next year. You might have strategic plans, and that's a different discussion that looks further out, that's looking 5 to 10 years. It's creating a direction for the business, but budgets really are a subset of that, and they're looking at what the business is doing next year. So ideally, as a business owner or a financial controller or a manager or anyone in a sort of a management or directing capacity, you want to be able to understand the budget that you're putting forward. You want to understand the story that the budget is telling. We're not really going to look into the model today too much, but let's just point at a few things. So for example, if 26 was the budget period, and this was a forecast set up to create a budget for a business, the narrative that you're potentially telling here is we are looking to dramatically increase our employment expenses, and attempting to keep all else constant, because we have a product that's ready for sale, for example, and we're looking to scale up the headcount. So maybe that's just the sales team that we're going to grow in order to grow the top line. All else being equal, we're trying to, we're seeing that our margins have stabilized in this year. So really the goal and the focus is to look at our increasing sales and how that influences our revenue, and what that does to the bottom line, and on top of that, what that does to cash. And obviously in this particular example, there's a surplus of cash, so where are the reinvestment opportunities? At the end of the day, the story here we're trying to tell is that we have a growth story. We're trying to hire more people, and using that extra sales, trying to hire more salespeople, and with the extra salespeople, we're focusing on sales and expanding what we already do. Growth, we have a separate video or a series of articles and videos coming out to address growth, but growth can be in a number of directions. It could be expansion into markets, new products, so on. But the goal here and the narrative that we're trying to show in this is we're not necessarily growing vertically. We're not necessarily expanding into products, new market. We're purely going, we want to increase the sales on based on our existing products and maintaining our margin and seeing what that does to the business. That's the narrative. And then the next step beyond that is looking at how we track to that. I mean, that's the key thing of having the budget there. It's a process of going, well, here is the story we're telling. And then as the year plays out, the process of doing a budget variance analysis. So looking back at actuals, comparing them to what we budgeted, comparing them to say to the story. Are we following the story that we put forward? And sometimes it's actually as important to make sure that we are spending where we said we would spend, not just so a budget variance is not necessarily about going, oh, did we hit the revenue that we said? Are we up or down on the revenue? Are we favorable, unfavorable? It's not just, okay, have we overspent in these areas? It's as much about, hey, why haven't we spent in these areas? That was part of the budget. Is our top line being influenced by the fact that we're not spending? We put forward a story, we put forward a hypothesis, but if we don't follow through on the story and hypothesis, we're not allowing ourselves the opportunity for success and the opportunity for a data point to track and make sure and say, hey, we followed what we said we would, and the actuals have not come out the same. And that creates a new data point for us to look back and at the next year's budget, we would have done the analysis to go, hey, for each person that we've put on, it doesn't create the same amount of growth that we thought we would in our original budget. It could be because, hey, our onboarding process for sales isn't clean. We're not putting people on cleanly, and it's taking them a lot longer to find leads. It's taking them a lot longer to understand the product. It's taking them a lot longer to get up to speed with the selling process, and it's not translating as quickly. And that becomes another data point. It's really having that budget and then having a process beyond that to then look back at the budget, assess what we did, and then use that knowledge into the next year's budget, and always having a broad story in line and looking forward to that 5-10 year goal and going, hey, are our budgets aligned to what our goal is? Are we heading in that right direction overall? Is what we're doing next year, is the story that we're putting forward in the budget next year contributing to what we're aiming to do 5 to 10 years from now? And all of this plays into things that you can then tell financiers, you can tell stakeholders, and it helps to de-risk your business. Even if you're not right with the budget, that's not a problem. It would be great to be right, but no budget's ever spot on. It will change as soon as something happens. External factors, things that you didn't foresee, things will happen. But it's a matter of being able to be consistent with doing a budget, reviewing the budget, understanding the costs, understanding the favorable, unfavorable, and then pivoting and then moving and making sure that that process is consistent. Consistency is the goal here. It's not just, all right, I've done the amazing budget that's going to be super accurate for next year, but then I've never looked at it throughout the next year. I never track it. I never know what has actually happened. And then the following year, I don't do a budget again because I couldn't be bothered. It's having that process every year. It helps to de-risk your business, and it helps stakeholders like financiers, like a banker, to go, hey, they have a process. Great, that's a de-risk. Oh, cool, they're fairly accurate with their process. Another checkpoint to de-risk. Oh, they're very consistent with producing budgets. There's a consistent process, and they prepare it for us the same year, same time every year. Oh, another de-risk. And there's a financial benefit in that example. So the budgeting process is super important, and it is not just about the numbers. It is about a process. It's about the storytelling. So yeah, hopefully this has been educational, and so everyone's been able to get something out of it. We'll be looking at diving into a model next time to actually delve into the actual process or different types of processes of budgeting. There's so many different potential ways to do it. So we might look into a few. But yeah, the key thing to take out of this video is it's important to do it. It's important to understand it's a narrative. It's important to track and follow up on your narrative and doing it consistently. So thank you for joining again on a Mango Method video. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, and jump into the next video. And yeah, we'll see you in that next video. Thanks again.